Welcome back to Drum Tips with Andy. I'm Andy Diamond. Today's lesson is going to be about drum fills. Before we begin, I'd just like to thank you all for watching the last one, and I apologize for how long this one is taking to come out. I will make sure to get these out at least once a week. But today we're going to talk about something that I believe is the most misunderstood part about drumming. Wha-bam! Those are drum fills. Drum fills have been bastardized by a lot of modern drummers and a lot of modern musicians as only a slightly small part of a larger context of music. Only for usually one or two bars, something to just keep the band, rotating. Serve the music. School of thought, so to speak. But you take a listen to a drummer like Zach Hill, and it sounds like he's playing fills the whole time. Well, it's because he doesn't abide by those rules. See, you should never set rules for yourself with drumming. You should only set suggestions. There are no rules you can't break during drumming. You need to push yourself. That's how you get better, honestly, is if you break the rules. Anyways, enough of that tangent. Tip number 1. Motif and theme. And with drum fills, you always want to have a sort of theme around it, the same way that a guitar melody has a theme. And when I get on the drums, I will show you that. Alright. Motif and theme. Also, you're going to have to bear with me for the sound of these drums. As soon as I get a more sophisticated setup, that is going to show what the quality of videos I make. But I figure that this knowledge is not necessarily super technical, so you don't have to know the intricacies of what I'm doing. At least on my set. I want to give you some ideas. So, motif and theme. Think like this picture of a cat right here. The theme of the picture is the cat. And I use motif and theme the same. I know I'm probably pissing off a lot of painters, but the same thing comes with drum fills, drum grooves, drum solos. You should always have a theme. Now, for example, what if the theme was a 5-stroke roll? So something like that. And so the exercise I'm going to have you guys do is take the 40 rudiments, and with every single rudiment, practice around trying to go around the set for a few minutes. So for example, I'm going to just do paradiddles. Oh, and make sure you're not only playing paradiddles. That's the theme. You want to accentuate the theme. You don't want to just keep going. So, here we go. Something like that. As you can see, I messed up, but I'm keeping that in because mistakes are what you want. You want to be making these mistakes that make you tense up like this, because that means the neuroplasticity in your brain is firing with the neurons in your hands to try and figure out what you're supposed to do there. And eventually, it becomes muscle memory. So I'm going to leave that in because you should never be embarrassed about your mistakes. Never, ever. All right. Drum tip number 2. End on not 1. What does that mean? It means exactly what is written down. Stop ending your fills on the 1, or at least practice not ending the fills on the 1. Because even if you keep ending them on the 1, when you practice without, it allows your fills to breathe with your ideas. So for example, a normal drum fill would be something like this, right? Boom, ga doom ba, da ga da ba da doom ba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, da ga doom, ah, boom ga doom da doom ba. Something like that, you know? But what happens if instead of ending on the 1 of the next measure, we end on the 2? Da, boom ga, doom ga, di di ga da boom da ga da boom da ga. Boom, boom ga, boom, boom ga, boom, boom ga. Daka dooma daka gaka daka dooma da da ga da doom ba da ga doom ga. Boom, ba. And I will show you the exercise right now. All right, tip number 2 is to not end on the 1. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let's listen to the difference between this fill and this one. You notice how that second one had a little more tension to it? Like, oh, is he gonna fail? That's the ticket. That's the money shot. That's what drumming's all about, is the push-pull tension. Now, how would you practice this? Well, start off by doing 2 normal fills at a very slow speed like I was, and ending on the 1. You do the same thing, then you end on the 2. Same thing, end on the 3. Same thing, end on the 4. I'll give you the example for 1 and 2. So, ending the fill on 1 is just like ending a fill you would do any other Wednesday. So, 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 3, 4. Stuff of that nature, right? Now let's do it on 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you could do that with 3, 4, the and of 1, the and of 2, the and of 3, the and of 4, the E of 1, the E of 2, the E of 3, the E of 4, or you could go into triplets. Speaking of, alrighty. Third and final tip is probably the hardest one to conceive, but I promise with a metronome and a lot of practice, you too can do it. Wha-bam! Number 3, duple to triple meter. Now what does that mean? It simply means going from either 8th notes, so taka, 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 to triplets. Takita, 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 ta. But you're doing it in the same measure. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to clap in 4/4, but every 2 beats I'm going to switch from 8th notes to triplets. 1, 2, ready, go. Da 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 di da da di da 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 di da da di da 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 di da da di da 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 di da da di da da. And now here it is with quarter note 16th notes and quarter note triplets. So Now let's see how it applies to the drum set. First exercise for duple and triple meter is to just go around the kit and switch periodically, but make sure it's not to a pattern. That's the secret. From duple to triple meter. So I'll give you an example. 1, 2, ready, go. Something like that. Now, for fills, eventually you get that faster and faster, and then what happens is you can play something like this and then do a triplet fill over it. It just allows you to do that sort of flow better. And then, of course, you can go from that's just changing the sticky pattern from duple to triple. Now, obviously, this takes a lot of practice and muscle memory, retention, but I believe in you guys. Wow, would you look at that? Finished the lesson. Thank you so much. If this at all helped you, please like, subscribe, share the video around. Yeah. Keep drumming and break all the rules.